Ladies and gentlemen, you are tuning into It's Rainmaking Time. This is Kim Greenhouse, and I'm bringing you Trevor James Constable. I've had the opportunity of interviewing some of the most remarkable people in the world. A person who has formed a new energy power plant, David Slauson from Sterling Energy. Joe Longo from StarTech, who has formed a waste elimination technological company which eliminates chemical weapons and uranium, takes it, puts it into a plasma converter, destroys it at a molecular level, renders it inert, and converts it to a usable utility. Sound out of the box? It's out of this world. But you know what? What they've been doing is very real and very needed by humankind. And so is the work of Trevor James Constable. The man you're about to be introduced to is a weather engineer. He is also the author of 12 books, 4 on aviation. He has the ability, not only the life experience of having been influenced by the work of Wilhelm Reich and Rudolf Steiner, he has the ability to literally make it rain. Not only does he literally make it rain, he has the ability to get rid of smog and to eliminate it. And he also has a lot to say about hurricanes. But let's not wait any further, because Trevor James Constable has been waiting many, many years to bring you this kind of nature of broadcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the mighty force that he is, Trevor James Constable. Welcome to It's Rainmaking Time, sir.
Thank you for that lavish introduction.
My pleasure.
Don't let anybody know that I wrote it.
Well, you really deserve a lavish introduction. And you have something that is very needed by a great part of humanity. Not only are many of us familiar with the fact that there are droughts throughout the world and countries that are outside of the United States of America, but millions upon millions of people don't have access to drinking water, fresh drinking water. And let's talk about what a rainmaker is, because I got very excited about this term some years ago when I was looking for a metaphor that I could translate to the public that children could understand and adults could understand about the magic of bringing something about. Mm-hmm. And something that it would involve the spirit, and it involves skill, and it involves a love of bringing something in. And today, a rainmaker is known as somebody who makes a commitment and delivers it, makes a promise and delivers it. But in this particular case, a rainmaker is understood on indigenous terms to mean a person like a medicine man or woman who prays and literally asks the spirit world to bring in the rain. Some people would say that isn't even believable, and yet there are people like this out in the world who do this. What do you think about this?
Well, I think it's absolutely true that there are people who do that. Native peoples, the tribes in Seminole tribes in Florida have that ability. Some of the medicine men of those Seminole tribes have repeatedly produced rain down there. And the old Hawaiian kahunas are a classic case of it.
What did they do?
They made rain in Hawaii. They made it rain there. It was a part of their magical processes.
When you say part of their magical process, what exactly does that mean?
Well, the whole of the Hoonah Magic is an advanced system of metaphysical thinking and acting. It's a complete fabric of knowledge that they used and still do use. Healing and things like that, and of course rain engineering. They have been doing that for generations there. Max Freedom Long made that clear in his several books on Hoonah Magic.
Is it something that's accessible to all of us from your experience?
Yes, it is. There are ways into Hoonah Magic for the ordinary person if they wish to study it. You find those advertised in magazines like Fate and similar magazines to that. You see ads for Hoonah teacher who will take you in.
But that's not the kind of weather engineering that you do.
No, it's not.
Has something completely different.
That's right. It's related to it in as much as they use the vital force. They use the qi, as the Chinese call it, the most common name other than orgone energy developed by Wilhelm Reich.
So let's go back a little bit to the introduction of new knowledge. I think it's very critical that you establish a frame of reference for all of us, because the introduction of new knowledge would seem to be obvious. It's just knowledge that's new. But that's not the kind of new knowledge that you're introducing.
No, not at all.
Talk about that for us.
Well, new knowledge in the sense that I mean it, which is with a capital N and a capital K, is a complete effort to reach into the spiritual world for certain principles and understanding of the way that the physical world works. The physical world is not just a dead, inert pan. It is irradiated by energies that we know nothing about. And some of us are determined not to find out.
When you say irradiated by certain energies, what does that mean?
Well, for example, you're sitting here with me now, and your physical body is irradiated by something that the medical profession and men of science don't yet understand. In other words, where does your energy come from? And why hasn't that question been asked in the universities?
That's a great question. Let's ask the question, where does my energy come from?
Right.
Vis-a-vis this conversation.
Well, it's going pretty deeply in a hurry there. But basically, you asked to differentiate the difference between new knowledge and what I consider new knowledge. What I consider new knowledge is the knowledge of how your organism is impelled to go across the room and down the street and to go through all the processes of living. That's what I call new knowledge, and you know, I'm afraid our smartest people know very little about it.
How does the new knowledge manifest itself in terms of your work?
The new knowledge manifests itself in the particular devices that I have designed and developed through the years. And it does not really relate to anything of the old knowledge, and that's one of the reasons why it has had such a difficult birth, is that it's radically different. Radically different.
So right now, the introduction of new knowledge has to do with introducing a new spiritual dimension then.
Mm-hmm.
Is
Yes,
that
it
the
does.
key
That's
to
right.
your
That's right.
definition of new knowledge?
Right.
Okay. And in this context, it's not just introducing, quote, a new thing, but a new principle, which becomes the filter for a new universe of understanding.
That's right.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
That's exactly right.
All right. So in that context, your work has been highly influenced by Wilhelm Reich,
Mm-hmm.
by Rudolf Steiner, and so much so that you worked for, what, a year in consultation with Wilhelm Reich's daughter, Eva?
Yes. Who was a medical doctor.
Talk to me about your studies with her, your
Well,
conversations
I
with
met her through Dr. Ruth B. Drown, the late Dr. Ruth B. Drown, who was another very decisive influence on me. And Dr. Eva Reich, had a problem with an internal hemorrhage, which she was not able to arrest. It was a constant blood leak that was very difficult to deal with, and she was persuaded to get in touch with Ruth Drown, who at that time was operating a laboratory in Hollywood. And Ruth Drown, with her technology, was able to just arrest that immediately from Los Angeles, and Eva was back in Maine.
When you say arrest that immediately, meaning what?
It means she stopped the bleeding from out here, without any intervening.
With
nothing.
instruments?
With instruments.
Was
right.
it through a kind of prayer and meditation? Was
No,
it
no,
through
nothing
a technical,
like that. No,
anything
no.
technical?
Technical, absolutely. It was an instrument that was used for it, called a hemorrhage control unit.
Talk to me about that
Well,
for a moment. I know that's not the purpose of our but you're in something, and people will want to know, what is that?
That is a device that was developed by her from her technology that grounded the parathyroid glands and stopped bleeding by that means. That was the way it worked.
What was the technology?
The technology was a simple tuner.
Like a radio tuner?
Like a radio tuner, really. Very similar to a radio tuner, but much simpler than a radio tuner. In fact, the simplest transistor radio is 1,000 times more complicated than one of Ruth Drown's instruments. But that's how I came into contact with Eva Reich, was getting her hemorrhage stopped. And then, she talked to Ruth Drown about me, and I got in touch with her, and she guided me through her father's work in such a way that I didn't lose track